Welcome back. So I'm making this argument that there's some relationship between all of the problems in the world that we sort of commonly think about as the problems with the world, whether it be the environment or violence or economic injustice. Um, I want to for I guess the best metaphor that I can use is that it's sort of like the symptoms and the kind of cause, right? Now all the things, all the problems that we think are the problems maybe aren't really the problems. That maybe the problems that we think are the problems are problems, but the reason why we have these problems is actually for some prior reason, some deeper reason. Um, and the reason, and it's going to get more complex, but the simplest thing, to at least a place to start, is to think about our sort of spiritual hunger, our spiritual needs. Um, because we don't just need one thing spiritually. It's not as if we have physical needs and emotional needs and kind of psychological needs, and then just one spiritual need, right? There's not just one sort of silver bullet. Actually, our soul, our psyche, our spirit is quite complex, and I think that this is why people sort of miss it or miss this dimension. Think of it on analogy with the physical body, right? So your physical body needs a lot of different kinds of things, and it needs all those different things for a number of different reasons, right? So you need, your body has nutritional needs. You need various vitamins and minerals, but you also just need calories. But you also need warmth, right? You need clothes. You need to be in an environment where your body won't freeze to death. Your body also needs to be washed periodically, right? You need air, right? You need touch, you need affection, right? The mammalian body needs a kind of a variety of different things in order to function well, in order to maintain its integrity, its wholeness, its health. And if the body isn't getting everything it needs, then the body will feel uh, malnourished, weak, tired, maybe sick, actually get sick, maybe anemic. There's all these different kinds of problems that are attributable to different kinds of lack, all right, of malnutrition, of different nutrients that we need. Well, just so the soul, the psyche, this sort of higher kind of abstract self, it it actually needs very, very specific things. And broadly speaking, all humans need the same things. Um, and if we don't get all of those things, we suffer, and the soul gets weaker, and the soul gets sort of malnourished and frail, and can just die. So we need, for example, certain kinds of relationships with other people, right? Relationships of friendship, of mentoring, of intimacy. We need to feel like we're accomplishing something in the world. We need to feel like we have kind of a concrete and specific purpose or vocation or calling. We need a lot of rest, right? Not just physical rest, but kind of spiritual rest. We need various kinds of pleasures and various kinds of challenges to overcome. There's all these things that the spirit needs. Um, and as long as we're not getting those needs met, just as the body sends up these sort of red flags saying, I need this, the soul will send up red flags too. The soul has ways of communicating to the conscious mind what it is that it thinks it's missing, and communicating what we need to do in order to fulfill those needs. And those needs do not go away, right? If you're not getting enough salt, or if you're not getting enough iron, or if you're not getting enough calories, your body is never ever ever going to get better. It's never ever going to recover until it gets the salt or the calories or the iron or whatever it is it needs, so that it can function properly. That's sort of objective. It's there's just no other way around it. The needs must be met in whatever way we can find to meet them. Just so our soul has these needs, and they're shared and they're sort of objective. And the problem is, and this is my sort of analysis, I guess, of the problem, is that we don't understand the language of the soul anymore. We don't have good languages. We don't have a culture which communicates or that passes on the wisdom of what the soul needs in order to be healthy and how to meet those needs, how to get those things. So our stories used to have just all these examples, all these characters, all these interactions, all these sort of models of people overcoming obstacles, people forming certain kinds of relationships, people kind of passing through life transitions or soul transitions, and we have these stories talking about exemplars of people doing it well, but also stories of people not doing it well, so that we sort of know kind of what can go wrong. And as long as we don't have a culture that preserves and shares those stories, then we're not, we're just going to continue to live with those hungers, with those unmet spiritual needs. And our spirits and our souls will meet whatever needs in whatever ways they can, but often it will be bad ways, right? So for example, sometimes you're like, you're so hungry, you're so hungry, you're so hungry, but all that's available to you is candy bars. Well, if you're hungry enough, you're going to eat those candy bars, even though those candy bars don't actually really fulfill you, aren't really filling, don't actually give you the nutrients that you need. But what are you going to do? Candy bars are all you have. And our culture is like that. Our culture is filled with easy ways to meet needs that you don't actually really have, that don't actually solve any problems. But because we're so hungry, because we're so desperate, because we feel these needs, we experience these needs kind of deep in our being, and they just don't go away. And so we're always looking, we're always feeding that hunger in whatever way that we can find, whether or not those things are actually satisfying or whether those things actually fill the need, right? Or maybe it's something that we really do need, but we've already got plenty of it. Meanwhile, there's this other thing that we also need that we're not even thinking about, or that we don't know about, that no one's told us about. And so we don't know that that's a thing that we need. So culture, our stories, our language, our vocabulary has to be sort of rich enough and subtle enough and wise enough that it can communicate to us not necessarily what we need at a given time, but at least gives us the language for expressing what we need and for finding ways to fulfill those needs in ways that are successful. And so that's what the archetypes are. That's what the archetypes do. The units, I guess, of culture, the basic elements of the ideas that express what our soul needs and how we meet those needs comes in the form of the language of the archetypes. So in the next video, I'll talk a little bit about the archetypes and how that works. Stay tuned.